we're going to be going over the new menu. I do have people on the line coming up from both version 3.4 and 4.0. The thing is that this is going to be a change for all of you. We have a brand new menu in version 6. So I don't know exactly how you guys get into TIMS. I'm going to open TIMS from my desktop here. I am going to keep everybody's line muted for now because I do have a lot to cover in this half hour. I want to make sure I get through it. There should be time at the end for any questions you have. So my new menu has opened and an application has opened. This just happens to be an application that I have set up in my startup file. This is an application that I might use all of the time, and rather than me opening up the main menu and then me coming in and opening up this application, I just set it up in my startup. So that way when the menu opens in the morning, that application opens. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this now, and I'll show you how I did that in a little bit. But behind it is the new main menu, a very different look and feel than you're used to in the TIMS menu. It's more of a like a Windows 8-ish feel. It pretty much acts like the menu that you used to have. It's just easier to work with. Now, one of the things that was always a problem in the lower versions for people was, sometimes you'd be wanting to go out to play and play in your play area or your test area, do some experimenting, and then you forgot because there was really no visual difference between that and regular TIMS. You forgot you'd start doing real work in play. Or you would come into your real world and do play work in your live environment. Well, that's one of the things that we have changed in version 6. If you have a play area, this is what the menu is going to look like. The structure is going to be the same, but you see it's a different color. And I hope you guys can see that there's a little watermark in the background. It's very obvious that I'm in my play system. At any point in time, I just see that, I've got the dark screen. I certainly still have a system number of 950, so there's still that for you, but you don't really have to scrutinize that little number. It's very obvious. And for those of you that have a test area, it's the same kind of thing, except it's going to be a green screen. Now my test area now does have a system number of 00, but don't worry about that. If it says 00 here, but it's green, then you're good to go for your testing. So let's talk about the rest of the information that's up here. There will, of course, be your company's name, your system number, and then there'll be the site number, and that's your, basically your account number with us here at CU. It will be a 3-character, ABC, XYZ kind of thing. And then there's the date and time stamp. And this is the information that used to be down in the bottom. Now we've moved it up top. Over to the right, I have a picture. Now that picture we had originally thought was going to be so that you could put a Facebook picture up there, but we kind of ran out of programming time. So really this is the only picture that there is. There's no way to go in and put your picture on there. This is your username that you're logged in as. The logout button. The logout button is very important. I'm going to come back to that later when I actually log out. Under help, I do have help now. In lower versions, there really was no help. Now I do have help, standard Windows help. I have contents help, an index, which is an alphabetical listing, and then you do have the ability to search for something. Contents help will just basically step you through whatever you question about the main menu. If you want to understand the menu icons, click on this and you can start looking at the different things that you can see on the TIMS main menu. Over in search, you just enter what you need to search. Let's say I don't understand what the favorites are. I can type in favorites and submit the search. And then maybe I want to understand removing an application from my favorites. I click on the link and it's going to talk me through step by step whatever I have to do. So that's a nice new feature. Up in Help, I also have full TIMS documentation. So if you want to go see the documentation for order entry, or you see the documentation for inventory management, you want to see the documentation for point of sale, whatever you want to see, I have 8,600 pages, or I guess 8,700 pages worth of document here. It's basically in alphabetical order, so you'd have to open the chapters. Like if you wanted to look down at medical billing, cylinder control, whatever you want to look at. A lot of information there. And then the last thing would be your about, and this is the same as in lower versions. This is going to tell you what version you're on. And that might not be something that you need to see, but at some point in time, if you're working perhaps with my support people, they might help you navigate here so you can read them, these numbers. Next, I have my tools. The first tool is the Change Windows Password, and just like in lower versions, you really shouldn't be doing that unless you have talked with your system administrator. Configuration settings. This is where that startup is held. This is where TIMS looks to see what applications you want him to start up for you. If I change job responsibilities and I don't want customers to start up for me anymore, I would just click on it to activate the delete button and then delete it. And now when I open TIMS, customers will not open up for me. Here are the TIMS standard printers. So you see that I have a list of different kinds of things that print out of TIMS. And you'll see that some of them are gray and some of them are black. And the ones that are black over here in the changeable column say yes. So what that means is my system administrator has given me the authority to change where my reports print, where my tickets print, and where my quotes print. But they have not given me the ability to change where my purchase orders print, my cylinder labels print. So if it says no, there's nothing you can do about it. If it says yes, you're just going to highlight it and come down here and pick whatever printer you want those to print on. Again, that's just going to be your default in the print screen. You'll still have the opportunity to change it there if you want to. And the last printer you need to deal with is your Windows default printer. This is really for printing things out of the spool folder. So you do need to come in here and choose something. If you forget to do this, you'll have trouble your first day trying to print something out of the spool file. TIMS won't know where to send it. So make sure that you pick a spool file printer here. In order to get back to the main menu, I need to navigate out of configuration settings and go back. And I'm mouse clicking on that. All right, the next thing I have to cover in Tools is the quick menu. Well, Program Branch is still there, but that would be for my support people, not for your, you guys to be doing anything in. Next thing you will use is the quick menu. And the Control D functionality, the data interrupt, you may have called it the data inquiry, whatever you called it is gone. The Control D doesn't do anything for you anymore. We now have a quick menu, and if I hover my mouse over it, you see that it's a Control M. So anytime you used to hit Control D, now you're going to hit Control M, and you're going to get the quick menu. And it really does the same thing. This is an access to your spool file. I can issue credit releases, so I have it up there. Here's my sales history information, and here are my inquiry apps. So it's the same thing you had before, it just is under a different menu. When we went to this programming, we couldn't use Control D anymore. So this is the replacement for it. Notice that your inquiry apps, all of the shortcut keys there are the same. So for instance, for looking at the inventory display, if you used to just do Control D, Control I, you'll just need to do now Control M, Control I, and it'll take you to the same display. If you look at this list, you'll see that there is one that you guys probably used a lot that no longer exists, and that's the account inquiry. Version 6 does not have account inquiry. In the place of account inquiry is the customer centric. So that's where you'll be going to do all of your research on your customer. My favorites are also located here still, and the ability to search. That means to search for the application that I want to open. That search is basically this field here. And the last thing in the Tools menu, well, aside from the Special Menu Setup, which again will be a CU function, you guys won't be setting up any menus. You will, however, be able to use the Zoom. Now the Zoom only works on a screen that looks like this, something that's in the new Windows 8 looking programming. But I can either hit the Zoom here. I can also get to that by holding the control button down and using my mouse. Now the only mouse that it works on is one that has a mouse wheel. So if you don't have a mouse wheel, you won't be able to navigate up and down like I am doing. You'll have to use your mouse and click on it. But if you have a mouse wheel, it'll move it up and down. Just hold the control and you see what it does to my screen. But again, I must warn you that this is only for the screens that look like this. Your old, like order entry or whatever, it's not going to work in there. And in order to get out of either the Zoom or the quick menu, I can navigate my mouse over there and hit the X, or from my keyboard, I can just hit the escape button. So the Search Apps field, that obviously is brand new, and that is trying to save you from having to navigate through a directory to find the applications that you want. So you're just going to be able to search for them. Maybe I know I want to enter a purchase order. I type in purchase order, and it brings me up any application that has whatever characters in it that I typed. So it can be at the end, as you see here. It can be at the beginning. It can be in the middle. It doesn't matter. It's just going to find me any application that has those characters in it. Now, if I want to open up, if I want to launch that application, I can navigate with my mouse till it's blue, and then I can click on it. I could have also, let's do receiving. So here's my purchase order receivings. I can use my up and down arrows, and then when the whatever I want is blue, I just hit my enter. And you see that the applications, most of the applications are going to be the exact same look and feel that you're used to. Just because we changed the menu doesn't mean everything else underneath it changed. We are trying to get there, but it's a slow process. So let's look for, let's say, General Ledger. Some of the other things that I can do from the Search Apps field is I know where this application lives because it gives me the navigation path. If I wanted to go through the directory, I could go to General Ledger, Processing, and launch General Ledger from there. I can also right-click on anything that's blue, and I have other options. I can launch it. If this one wasn't already there, I could add it to my favorites. Since it's there, I can remove it from my favorites. I could add it to startup. Remember when I opened it up, customers opened, and we found customers back here in my configuration settings. If I want General Ledger to do that same thing, I just click here, add it to startup. And now tomorrow when I open up Tim's, that will open up for me automatically. I could swap to it, or I could look at information about that, and we're not going to do that. So I want to clear it. I just go ahead and press this. Now again, mouse clicking is what I'm doing. If you are a keyboard person, you're going to want to start using the Tab key. I know what place my cursor is because of this little blue dot. So as I hit my Tab, I see the little blue dot moving around. Now it's up here. Now it's over in my applications. So it jumps around a lot. I find that it is just easier here to point and click. If you still want to navigate manually to your applications, that's what you're going to do on the Browse Apps button. So here's the directory. You guys, according to your system administrator's authorizations for you, you may not have every one of these applications, but you'll have some of them. So accounts receivable would be the module. Here are the subfolders that you're used to, and here are the different applications. You'll see all sorts of different little icons in here depending on what you're looking at, trying to just give you some visual clues as to what this application is. There's also a change here that I need you to understand, and that is if you ever went into a subfolder called Files, maybe you were looking for the customer file, maybe you're looking for the inventory file, we don't have the word file anymore. So you'll see that I don't have a Files subfolder. I have a management folder and a setup folder, and basically what we did was we took all of those files and decided to break them up between these two. So if I go into setup, if you look at this list, it's pretty much the kind of things you used to go into once in a blue moon. I mean, how often do you have to go into your branches? How often do you have to set up a new tax code? Not very frequently. So we called them setup applications. You'll go in here once, set things up, and you might never come into that file again. Whereas the applications that are in management, those are the ones that you're probably actively going to be in at least on a daily basis. In this case, it's the customers application. So number one, it's not called customer file anymore. It's called customers, and it's in the management folder. Now think of management here not as like your manager, but as management of the data in these applications. So if you are going to use the search apps, you want to make sure that maybe you don't type the whole thing, because certainly if I were to type customer file, TIMS doesn't find anything because I don't have a customer file anymore. But if I just typed part of customer, there it's going to be my customers file. This is a suggest as you type. The more you type, the more narrow your results will be, but if you're not typing exactly what TIMS wants, you're not going to find it. For instance, AR manager. In my head, I would type AR manager, but there is no AR manager. That's because they called it a /R manager. So if you're going to use the search apps, you need to type it like it is. In that case, less is better for you. So I'm going to go back to my main menu. So that's what the Browse Apps tile is. The report viewer, I'm not going to open up this morning, but that is where all of your RDL reports will be, your custom reports. Anything like somebody's written in SSRS would be there. Customer Centric is another class. Hopefully you're taking. That's the replacement for Account Inquiry. Now, depending on whether your company has purchased our task system, you may have another tile over here. But these are applications that we think you're going to be in very frequently, so we don't need you to search for them. You don't even need to take up space as a favorite. We're just putting them here. You would just click on it, and it would open the application. Which brings us to our favorites. Now the favorites, that's something that you used to have, but they were on the other side of the screen. Now they're front and center. In order to get something here, I got to find it first. So let's put inventory adjustment. So I'll type inventory, maybe I'll put inventory display. So again, once it's blue, I right click on it, and I can add it to my favorites. and brings it over here. That's all there is to adding something to the favorite. Either find it in your search apps or navigate to it. We'll go down here and we'll say I want to put this one in my favorites. And Tim's will just put it in the next available slot. And you can decide what goes in what slot. Once Tim's places it, you can organize it. I right-click and I get organized favorites. And I can right-click on any of them. It doesn't matter which one I right-click. I just right-click on one of my favorites. That brings me into organize, and I can move things around. Reorganize them to whatever works for me. I can, if I had 20 favorites, I couldn't do what I just did. There wouldn't be room for me to move things around. So I can move a couple of them over here to open up some space, do my organizing, and then pull them back. If for any reason there's something I want to remove from my favorites, I can also leave it here. And then when I save, it's going to be deleted from my favorites. So once I save and I go back here, number one, this is all set up the way I organized it, and number two, that application is no longer here for me. Down here in my open applications, you see that I have open applications, and so that is pretty much the same as it used to be in the old system. Anytime I open up an application, it's going to be added to my list, and chances are your company has not made any change, so that means that you can still probably only have 10 of these. If I was putting in an order, once an order number has been created, that order number would be down here. So if I have multiple things open, I know which one I need to go back to. And yes, you can still have multiples open. I cannot come up here and click on order entry to open up another one, though. That's going to open up the one that I currently have. So what I need to do, whether I do it here, here, or here, is whenever I have order entry blue, I right-click on it. And if I have it open, then the option will be to launch again. And now it will open up a new instance of order entry. Maybe I want to go into change. Again, it's going to give me the information down here when well, it looks like that guy doesn't have anything, but you can see that it does at least give me the mode, and if I had an order open, it would give me that order number. Now, what if I wanted to see those two order entries next to each other? Maybe I wanted to do some comparison. You can still do that. Also, the trick is to minimize the menu. So now, if an application is not showing, it will be hidden behind the menu. You'll just have to close the menu to find it. Or what I just did was hold the Alt button down with my thumb. I keep it depressed, and now I'm just up and down on my tab button. It's taking me through all of the applications that I have open. When I get to the one I want, I lift it up and that application comes up for me. Or I just need to get back to the menu to open something else up. Down here in my open applications, everything that you used to have is still there. I can right-click on this and capture a screen if I need to send that off to someone. And you see that it has captured that screen for me in the TIMS document viewer. I could have also taken a screen capture with the desktop. So now the picture has my application plus the desktop. I can, of course, choose to swap to, but really I can just go ahead and click on them. I don't have to choose to swap to it. And then there's one new addition, is the ability to close. If I right-click on customers and close, it actually will try and close that application for me. And you see that customer closed. Purchase order inquiry would probably close. Order entry change might close. See if it does. It's not closing. Front, I would know it would not close. The thing is, if you ask TIMS to close and the application you're asking on is at a decision point, TIMS doesn't know what to do. You know, you've started an order. You know, if you went in and tried to delete that order, you'd have to abort the order. Well, TIMS can't make that decision to abort the order. So it's going to make you come in and do that. But if you haven't done anything in the application, TIMS will go ahead and close it for you. Over here under the messages, someone in your company will have the ability to come in here and edit messages. There will be a business unit message. That's basically everybody in your company. And then there will be a system number message. And that relates to the system number that you're logged into. So for instance, you could have a different message for play versus live. Once somebody changes that message, and again, that's just people that are granted that authority, you will see that a new message has been put out there. You'll get this little yellow thing, and that'll say, hey, pay attention because something here has changed. Once you've read it, once you understand what changed, you can just go ahead and get rid of this because in the lower versions, this box only updated every day. I mean, every time you logged in, basically, so once a day. Now it will automatically update every 15 minutes. So, you know, depending on how active the people are that can put messages in, you could get a lot of those little yellow notifications. So that brings us up to that logout again. Logout, it is just super important that you log out cleanly. If I was to hit this X or I was to hit this X, certainly TIMS would be gone from my screen. But my session, my license, would still be tied up in the background, which means that if my company is tight on licenses, somebody else might not be able to get in to do their job. Or when it comes time to do night batch tonight, my unclosed session might prevent the batch from running. So really, when you're ready to be done with TIMS for the day, you need to hit the word logout. And you're going to get a message that says continue with logout and shut down all active processes. And it's just like that close thing. I can go ahead and say yes, and TIMS will close what it can over here, but then it's going to tell me that there's some things that it just can't close. So I'm going to have to go in here and close them myself before I'm actually able to log out. But that will free up my license. Now somebody else who needs it can go ahead and log in. And that is all there is to the new main menu. I do have a couple minutes left. If anybody's got any questions, you can raise your hand. I'll try and call on you. Or go ahead and type a question in the questions pane on the GoToMeeting console. Otherwise, that's all I have to share with you today. So thank you for attending and have a